Character hugs are finally back. I can go and hug Mickey, I guess. We're also excited that all of the resorts are now open. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We've got a couple previews and much, much more on ParksCenter. Welcome to ParksCenter for February 3rd, 2022. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you for joining us. Tonight we have a great panel for you. I'm very excited to introduce them to you, Miss Stephanie James.
Hi, everybody.
And Mr. David Smith. Nope, that's not
Hey,
David
everyone.
Smith. That's David Smith, but I screwed up on one little thing because I've blown the secret because the man, the myth, the legend is with us tonight, Mr. Pete Carney.
There we go.
Oh, no, no audio again.
Oh, no.
We lost his audio.
You lost the audio, buddy. We lost the audio. You had it. Yeah. We had some technical issues.
Wait a minute.
Oh!
We're back,
Yay!
baby. Sivaco.
Sivaco.
I'm excited to be back here on ParksCenter. Let's do this, baby. I'm excited.
So good to have you back, sir. We appreciate it. Thanks for being on. We're going to talk a little bit about March Madness. You can tell us the insides of what happened, and we're going to talk about the whole skeleton thing and all that stuff later. But thanks for being on the show, man. We appreciate it. We want to get jumped into to something that I thought was an interesting thing that broke this week was that Disney changed the phrasing on Genie Plus. So Genie Plus now says that in this fine print, it says guests can enter 2 to 3 attractions or experiences per day using the Lightning Lane entrance. So basically what they're saying there is that if you get started early enough with Genie Plus, you might be able to squeeze in 2 to 3 attractions using Disney Plus. That's a $15 charge. So basically, David, is that making the attractions $5 to get into, or do you think you can do better on this one?
I think in reality, for most days, unless you're in the most crowded times, you can do better than that. I think you'll probably be able to get at least 3, if not 4 to 5. I think that is a reasonable amount of attractions. Now, well, I don't want to jump ahead to your question, but I think what Disney is doing is a couple things. They're trying to stop guest complaints, and they're trying to temper expectations. And I'm sure we can dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think from the beginning we've been a little salty about the fact that you have to pay for what was free before. And when it was free, you could get guaranteed 3 fast passes per day and then use more. So, Pete, you go to the parks basically every day. Do you feel like that this is just you could probably get 8 rides in a day if you were using this, but I don't even know if you've ever tried Genie Plus.
I have tried Genie Plus a few times with the addition of lightning lanes, the paid lightning lanes and the non-paid lightning lanes. But if you're talking about the $15 version, I think what an important thing that you brought up was it really depends on the person, right? So you said, hey, Pete, you probably do 8. But, if you're somebody who's coming down for the very first time and you are not used to the Genie Plus system, let's say you sleep in or you got 3 or 4 kids, but you get to the park an hour late or an hour and a half late. By the time, they really have to account for every type of person on vacation. I feel like that's what they're doing here is really just covering their bases on top of busy seasons. I can only imagine what it's going to be like once, that summer break hits or we just went through spring break and it was nuts. It was crazy down here. And again, you could get through 3 or 4 or maybe 5 if you really know what you're doing or you're a family that prepares. But let's be real, when we're standing around the parks, I'm there a lot, you'd be surprised with, and if you're watching this program, you obviously are a preparer and you know Disney, but a lot of people come down not knowing anything. They don't do their homework, their research, they don't know where things are. They're asking where's Flight of Passage and they're standing in the Magic Kingdom. You'd be surprised on what you see. So I really think this is just Disney covering themselves verbally because, again, if you know what you're doing, yeah, you could get 4 or 5 done. If you rope drop and you do all the right things, but again, you'd be surprised what what comes into the parks. Oh, who's muted now?
Dang, dude, sorry. Good job. So I was going to say I'm learning a lot. Flight of Passage not in the Magic Kingdom.
No, it's
good
not.
Information to have, Stephanie.
Good to know. Yeah, I think that they're also pushing people to stay on their property. Absolutely. Because you can get that, Genie Plus selection an hour before park opens, at 7 a.m. Whereas the people that stay off property can't do that. They have to wait till the park opens to be able to make those selections. So they're not only pushing you towards that, and then they're also, like David said, they're making you be more like the paper fast passes because you had to run across the park to get them, and you maybe could only do 2, 3 attractions if you weren't very fast, to get those previously. So they're trying to hedge their bets there.
Yeah, and you know what? When I used to use Max Pass in California, I felt like it was worth my time and my money because I could, reserve one, run across the park, go out to
Yeah.
DCA, do something, come back to Disneyland, do something, and get all the big attractions. But the two problems are, one, big attractions aren't included in this, and two, it feels like the parks are a lot more crowded than they have
Well,
ever been.
MaxPass also gave the Disney hustler an advantage. I mean, if you were someone who wanted to get all those attractions done in a certain amount of time, or you had a tight schedule, MaxPass was great for that. Like you say, this you can try your best, but if you're going into the park saying I have to ride, this ride, and this ride, you can be prepared to wait a long amount of time. You might only get 2 or 3 done for the day. But if you already want to go on anything, or hey, this is the closest ride, let's just put the family on this ride, that's a whole other story.
Yep. David, you had some more insights?
No, just I think everybody's right, and I do think the reason they put this wording in was specifically because they were getting so many guest complaints of people coming up and saying, "Hey, I spent $15 for this, and I only got to use it 3 times," and that doesn't seem like
Right.
a great value, particularly when you look at the attractions that a lot of people were probably getting with this. I mean, you were talking about your tiki rooms and your Fill Magics and things like that people would not consider top tier.
Yep. Good point. All right, let's move on to the next one. All Star Sports Resort is finally open. Yay! Pete looks excited about that, and I bet you've never stayed there. You want to talk about it, Pete?
No, I love it. I'm just happy that the All Stars are back. Listen, I say this all the time, and I've said it all the time on past shows. Is that when I lived in New York and I came down here, I wanted to spend all my time in the parks or doing things around property. I was not one to sit around my resort. And again, every family is different. So for me, it was what is the cheapest property available inside the Disney bubble, and a lot of the time it was All Star Sports. So I'm happy that it's back. It's kind of like my old home resort. I mean, it is not the best, obviously. There's better resorts out there. But for me, it was all about being out of the hotel room. I just wanted the Disney transportation and to feel like I was in the bubble. So that's why All Star Sports was there for me.
Yep.
And the pop a lot of the time. So I'm happy to see it back. It's nice to see all the resorts open again. It does make you feel a little more normal, especially when you're driving in there. It was just been coned off for almost 2 years now. So you just become used to it. Like, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, there's a resort behind all these orange and white cones and fences. So I'm happy it's back. I'm happy all the resorts are now open.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it seems weird that it took this long for that to happen. Before we go any further, Stephanie, so a value resort is a resort that is one of the cheaper ones. I don't know if you're familiar with how value resort
I
works.
am
'Cause
familiar,
have you
Rob.
ever
Thank
been to
you.
a value resort? I mean,
Actually, when I was a CM there, I was a seasonal employee, so I could come back during certain times of the year, take a break from school, and come back and work for a few weeks. Well, one summer I came back and I actually stayed at the All Stars all summer because you got a discount as a CM as well. So yes, that's like a home away from home for me. Yes, I do. I have stayed there before. I loved it.
yeah. Well, and again, I mean, we say value. It is the one of the cheaper properties you can get, but not the cheapest one you can get in Orlando, is it, David?
No, I mean it's still Disney prices, so you got to be prepared to pay a little bit extra regardless. But in terms of, as Pete and Stephanie have said, in terms of staying on property, it is one of the better actual values of being able to get those pluses of being on a Disney resort.
Yeah.
Also, I'm just hoping that with the addition of these rooms, it might level out Disney room pricing because Disney room pricing right now has been out of control. And like we're not even on like spring break anymore, and it's not summer yet, and yet rooms are still ridiculously expensive. So maybe with the addition of these new rooms, we could kind of bring that rack rate back down to earth. But yeah, and I just wanted to say to all the cast members and CMs who are going into there, congratulations and welcome back. I know they're also having a really hard time staffing, which I think is a big reason why we saw this resort be pushed back so long. It wasn't refurbishment, obviously, is that I don't think they had enough people. So, I mean, it's nice that it's refreshed and it looks nice here. I mean, but they didn't do any major changes. I think it was just staffing. So a big shout out to all the CMs, the All Stars. You guys, make the magic happen over there too.
Absolutely.
That's right.
I
Did you want
would
to say
say
something?
it is, yeah, it is interesting that they didn't get all the refurbishment done during its closure. They're still working on one of the footballs. There's still a bunch of rooms that were not refurbished during that time. That's surprising to me, but maybe that also is a labor shortage as well. Who knows?
Well, I don't know if you heard Uncle Bob, but he said that they're not liquid right now, so that's probably the problem. They don't have enough money.
Do you want Guardians of the Galaxy or do you want All Star Sports? All right, leave me
You
alone.
choose. Yeah, it's sorry, it's sad that we have to make a choice, but I think we all talked about this with construction projects in general, that those parks were closed for so long, and why didn't they work on them while they were closed? There weren't any people in there. They had great opportunity. They knew they were going to reopen them again at some point. It really feels like they missed an opportunity all across the board, but it probably is staffing and money, and I think that's probably what took Typhoon Lagoon so long to open, and et cetera, is just trying to get the staff in.
Oh,
But
but Typhoon Lagoon did get a new wave pool, just for the record. I mean, while they were closed, which is kind of neat because those waves are kicking now.
are they
Woo!
choice? Are they choice waves, Pete?
Oh, these waves, they're fun. Like you don't seem that big. You get out there, there's like 6 or 7 of you, and all of a sudden it comes. You're like, oh, this is a new wave machine. This is legit.
Yeah. All right, I can't wait to go. So let's change gears a little bit to another bit of news that came out this week that I was really excited to hear about. This finally makes things feel a little bit more normal. Each step we take feels a little more normal, and this is character meet and greets. And I know we've talked about this before, but you can actually go and we'll be able to hug Mickey Mouse come April 18th. There's the news is that characters will be returning to Disney Cruise Line and the U.S. parks, but they've already returned to Universal, which goes back to the whole thing about Universal. They just do whatever they want to when they want to, and then they struck first here, and we're able to like today there are pictures on our websites of Squidward high-fiving kids, hugging kids, things like that. So, David, I'm going to go to you first again on this one. Why do they move faster than Disney? I feel like they keep stealing their thunder.
I think they are just so much more agile as a company and as an operations team within the parks. I don't know why Disney feels like they have to wait until the 18th for this. It seems like that's something you could turn on fairly quickly, but they're decided to wait. I think, again, Universal just shows that they're willing to take that little bit extra at risk to return back to a normal park experience.
Yeah, and I mean they were the first ones that were that were open. They were the first ones to remove some of the distancing, etc. And now they're the first ones to have the full character experiences, which is great because I saw some really sad character experiences, especially at Universal, where they had like Thing One and Thing Two on a stage over by themselves in the corner, and it was like the saddest thing that I had ever seen. It was just like they were just doing this, like like oh, look at them over there, and you can take the picture over your shoulder, and that's great. But it's really nice that this is returned. Pete, I assume that on April 18th you're going to be there ready to hug some characters.
Hey, I love warm hugs. Just to touch on what David said too, and then I'll kind of jump back into the hugs. Is I think Universal in general gets away with a lot more. Like they say they want to be equal to Disney, but Disney is much. I feel like they're under a much bigger microscope, especially in the general public. Like look at how the whole "Don't Say Gay" bill blew up in Disney's face. Like Universal gave very similar amounts of money to the same people who voted for the bill, and they sell a ton of Love is Universal merchandise and this, that, and the other thing, and nobody has attacked Universal at all. But it's all come down on Disney. So I think that's a perfect example why they get away with a little bit more. You could open first, there won't be as much blowback. They can have hugging first, there won't be as much blowback. Disney has this spotlight on them, so I think they have to walk a lot more cautiously, if that makes any sense. Going back to the hugs, I bet you I'm excited about it. I feel bad for some of the cast members. I know that princesses and some of the cast members who are friends with some characters probably would enjoy. It's like maybe the 80-20 rule. Like 20% of those hugs they probably never want to come back, but the 80% you haven't seen as many tears and happy moments, from waving 6 feet in front of a character and taking a picture. But like when you see a young kid hugging their hero or their character for the first time, and everyone's taking those photographs, and parents are crying, or even young adults and adults who hug their favorite characters who have come down on this once-in-a-lifetime trip, and you see the tears start coming down, I think that's really where the magic is made. So overall, I'm very happy that the character interactions are back. It just creates more of an atmosphere of that magic that we all go to Disney World for.
Yeah, and Stephanie, you were friends when you were CM of some of these characters, right? So how do you feel about all this?
Yeah,
That
working for
80-20 rule,
Disney,
right?
The 80-20 rule, right? Yeah, don't be creepy when you walk up to the characters, okay? But yes, whenever you are a cast member, especially in entertainment, it doesn't matter wherever you are in the park, but you want to make the guest experience the best you possibly can be. And I really feel like when you work for Disney, it's a huge corporation. You're just a cog, you're just a number to them. But when you are on stage, when you're out there with the guests, you're the celebrity, and interacting and making that child or even the adult, like Pete said, their most memorable experience by putting a little something extra out. That's really what it's all about for the cast member. So I'm really excited. This is one of the biggest stories, I think, and it's a long time overdue.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Okay, well let's move on. We'll talk about some get your hugs in. Wait, are you the 80% or the 20%, Pete? I'm still not really sure.
I'm
about
in the
that.
80. No, I really try not to creep. I like try to feel out cast members before I get up there. I'm like, high five, hug, knuckles. What are we doing? Okay,
We're hugging.
all
No,
in
no hug,
consent.
no hug.
Okay,
Okay,
this is a nice clean hug.
fair. Okay, fair. You know what? Easter, and we talked about Easter a little bit last week on the show. Easter is one of my favorite times in the parks because I think part of it is that we always used to go during the spring break time and be able to see some of the Easter stuff. Also, I mentioned that there was an Easter parade that Disney Parks used to put on back in the day that was televised. So, like, Easter, I always associate pretty strong with Disney. But right now, there are some these treats that they have. These, like, I love how over the top they go for holiday stuff, and the fact that Easter is one of those holidays where they go over the top is amazing. Is this a bunny butt? Yes, it's a bunny butt.
Yes.
And it's adorable. They're in these huge cupcakes.
Bunny
They've
butt.
got a lot of that. Pete's wrote a little song. But the boozy bunny, like, that seems a little wrong to me. Like,
Wait
I
a
don't know.
minute.
Boozy bunny, that seems a little over the top at the ganachery. So, I don't know. I'm gonna go to you on this one first, Stephanie.
It's
Thoughts?
liquid magic,
Oh
right?
my God, no, don't, no,
Yeah.
don't. Oh,
Where's the
okay.
song? No, anyway,
It's
so
liquid
yeah, I
magic.
think that exactly. It's something for everybody. Let's just put it that way. I agree with you, Rob. I feel like they need to have at least a seasonal or a themed cavalcade when it comes to these holidays. We were here at Walt Disney World last year, right, the day after Easter, and everything was back to normal. So I wish that it had lasted a little bit longer. I love the egg hunt that you can do through Epcot. That's really fun for the kids. But yeah, I enjoy all of the extra things that they can put out in the parks, like they do for Halloween, Christmas. I feel like they need to do something, extra in the springtime as well.
Yeah. David, have you ever gone during Easter, taken the fam?
Actually, I was trying to think back through this, and we haven't really. We've tried to avoid the spring break time periods, so I haven't experienced a lot of this. But I'm for anything that they can add to the parks to make them special for a specific time of year. So I
Yeah.
think it's good that they add these type of hunts and things.
Well, and in addition to just the Easter egg hunts that they also have these beautiful eggs on display. And we talked about this a little bit last week, specifically with the Grand Floridian. But they've got them in the Yacht Club. They've got them in the Contemporary. All of these amazing eggs that the Disney staff has put together, and it's so over the top. And you're right, it seems like one of those things that should last, more than the short period of time that it does. But Pete, have you seen this stuff in person? Is this something you get into?
Yeah, and they are stunning. I mean, and I was going to kind of jump off the 2 points already made is that they're already doing something. So like you're taking the time to put these eggs in multiple resorts around property. You have an Easter egg hunt going on at Epcot. They're doing Easter egg activities at almost all the resorts at this point. It's like I feel like right on the verge or edge of this being like a must see or a must do, or like maybe next time we go to Disney we'll go during Easter to go see all the eggs in this. I think what they're missing, and it was a good point, is like bring back either like a parade or some kind of special show that runs a 6-week run, sandwiching Easter. Where people have to be like, all right, now at least there's a show or a parade, and then we can go see all the Easter eggs. We can do the Easter egg hunt, and they can make that a new tradition. I mean, it just, to me, surprising Disney's dropping an opportunity to make this another family tradition, whether you come down for the Halloween season or Thanksgiving, Christmas. You have all these occasions. Why not build in another occasion if people want to come down? And like I said, you're already spending a lot of money. These eggs and these Easter egg hunts are beautiful and they're well done. so again, throw a parade together. I mean, they have the characters. Mr. and Mrs. Bunny come out on Main Street during Easter week, and you have a lot of the characters have like spring outfits, which could be easily used for Easter outfits. So I mean, this would be something that's very easy to put together. To me, why not just throw this in? You know, even a 4-week run or a 6-week run, make this something people want to come down for.
Yeah, absolutely. The scavenger hunt is one of those things that I love, and I feel like it started here that they did the egg scavenger hunt, and then they were like, hey, you know what? Let's do the Remy hide and squeak, and let's do the Spike the Bee hide and seek, and all of those other things. I feel like this was the first one, but again, something we always look forward to doing. One of the questions that I have, though, is there's a new one this year. There's the Scrooge McDuck one, but it's not just like an old school Scrooge McDuck. This is of the more recent DuckTales ilk, the way the animation is done. So I have 2 questions for you, Pete, and I don't know if you have the answer to either. One of them is, are you ready? One of them is, did this replace another egg? Because that's what I was kind of trying to rack my brain about, is if this replaced another egg. And the second thing is, do you think that this is a nod, and I think that our article speaks to this, do you think this is a nod to the fact that DuckTales World Showcase Adventure might still be something that they're planning on bringing us at some point?
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say the second one before you even asked it, is I think that this is setting up, they had all these big plans for this DuckTales, you know, coming to Disney Plus, and this was right before the pandemic hit, and we heard about this new scavenger hunt there was going to be doing with, you know, Huey, Dewey, and Louie and the whole DuckTales, you know, gang. So to me, I have a feeling that this is one of the new things they roll out, or one of the things that they will see more of. So this is a great Easter egg to maybe what's coming down the pipe.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm not really sure I would feel comfortable with that one. David, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm hopeful that means that World Showcase game is coming shortly. I am a bit concerned about it just because it feels like they've integrated these type of hunts into the festivals, and now that Epcot is you know, 100% festival, you know, park, you don't really have any of those downtimes where a World Showcase game really takes
91%.
off. So it's getting close there, but yeah, I hope so. I really think it needs to be there because it's something that will add a little bit more fun to World Showcase. They could really use it for kids.
2 times.
2 times. But I was trying to not make noise, so as opposed to it didn't work. There was a difference there. 2 times. Anyway, before they put the World Showcase one in for Kim Possible, I didn't think it needed anything in World Showcase. It kind of was what it was. But then when they put the Kim Possible one, I was like, this is just brilliant, because I think a lot of kids would get bored walking around World Showcase because a lot of the pavilions are just food and merch. And so that they would add these other things to it was brilliant. And that was after Kim Possible was over. And then they got rid of that and brought in the Phineas and Ferb right as that show was ending. And then now here they do. It feels like something they could turn on a dime, though, because if you put the money in, it feels like something like Christmas decorations they could have done overnight. You know, maybe they need to write the story and make sure all the things work. But the conversion from Kim Possible to Phineas and Ferb, or Perry's World Showcase Adventure, was not that different. Like, a lot of the little show scenes and things were the same. But Stephanie, did you ever take your family to any of these?
Absolutely. My kids loved Phineas and Ferb even before they even knew what the show was. Now they watch the show all the time. But yes, I think that, you know, I'm not going to speak for Desi here, but maybe she'd say not my DuckTales. Like, I don't know if the new, you know, animation is what we really want to see. But yeah, I think Rescue Rangers, anything that they can put in there would be great, because yes, kids do get bored. You're sitting at a restaurant waiting for your food, you're waiting for, you know, your table, and they can walk around that pavilion and find the interaction there. The problem is probably the app, getting it to work and writing the code for that. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to some Epcot, because, you know, I feel like we talk about Epcot all the time, and every little thing that changes, I think we report on the blog. I think if our reporter sees that something is slightly askew, we have a photo gallery like that. But, so I try not to overload everybody with this stuff, but I think a lot of information has come out specifically this week about some of this stuff, and especially looking at Guardians. So one of the things that we got was a first look at the at the what they call the planetarium exhibition in Guardians, and this looks pretty amazing. And it says there's going to be 30 minutes of unique footage. Here's a back shot of the Xandar ship. Some of the outside looks amazing. It really starts to look like this thing is almost ready to go. So that said, they teased us with this Guardians Cosmic Rewind announcement coming Monday, April 4th. The way they set that up on Friday, it certainly could have been an April Fool's joke, but I feel like this was information that we thought we were going to get last Monday, is that we thought we were going to get all these new dates and things, and I don't think we heard really anything specifically. David, you're nodding your head. Why do you think that was? Why did we not get that information?
I don't know. Some part of me thinks it almost might be because we reported it, but um, I'm not sure why they're holding back. Everybody knows it's going to be open Memorial Day. That's already been leaked by fairly high executives in the company. We know where they are in progress in terms of building it, of the construction. They're putting the finishing touches on. They're ready for the doors to open almost. They've started ride testing with cast members. So it's no secret that this thing's about to open up for previews. I think they wanted to try to find a window of PR window where they weren't having to deal with backlash from various stands that their CEO has taken. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, and you talk about previews. Like, I wasn't sure if we would see previews for this because sometimes we see previews, sometimes we don't. For this one, just very much like Ratatouille, I think a lot of this has been done for a long time, and now they're just starting to show us what it's about and starting to get ready to open it. But we reported that the media previews for Guardians will start the first week of May, which is like 3 or 4 weeks away, so that's pretty exciting. And then Affinity Group's previews are expected to follow, so Club 33, annual pass holders, etc. I think that I can't believe that they wouldn't do previews at this point, especially as done as it looks as it in this particular situation. Completely tongue-tied. Peter, talk to me.
I mean, what a good move to do this on April Fool's Day, and also just to say Monday, because this could be any Monday. So it could be them having fun if it's not ready this Monday. But anyway, good for them. I'm excited. I mean, the minute I saw that Monday thing, I booked an Epcot pass for tomorrow, because as soon as I see anyone there in the morning that that there's even a way that you possibly might be able to get on this ride, I am driving right over to do it. It's exciting. I think we're going to be able to go back to the time where there were previews. For a while, we didn't get real preview times of rides like you were mentioning, because I felt like we were always finishing late from project announcement dates. It was always being pushed back or late. The kind of gift COVID gave Disney and Lake Buena Vista Construction, which is their own company, is now they can say, all right, you have COVID, and granted, you couldn't work during some of that period, but give us a new date. So if you were 2 months behind, give yourself 8 extra weeks now, but don't make us late again. Let's go back to the days where we're not late, so we can do cast member previews, pass holder, all the whatever it may be, because it does make you feel special. Like, I remember when I got to, my first preview ever when I was a pass holder 4 or 5 years ago, and doing like Slinky Dog and doing these other openings that have happened since then. It does make you feel special. It is a nice added perk. So I'm with you. I think this is done and ready to go. So why not roll it out? And that leak for Memorial Day really put their back against the wall, and the surprise was kind of gone.
One of those things where they're like, "Hey, the big guy just said we're going to open. We got to open." Stephanie, I know you won't be riding this anytime soon, but any thoughts?
No, I completely agree with Pete. I think they're going to be doing previews right up until Memorial Day, probably even still after, because it's going to be high in demand. I think it's great that we have new content anyway, especially at Epcot, which is, sorely needed there. The biggest bummer for me is that they don't have any animatronics.
Yeah, we ran this story. No audio animatronics will be inside Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, which, you know what? It's the opposite of what happened with the overlay for Guardians Towers. I didn't think there were going to be any animatronics in that one. And then you have Rocket, which is an amazing animatronic. So it's almost like in that case, they've kind of fooled us, and it was exciting and unexpected, same way than when they put up the Three Caballeros and those animatronics from the Mickey Mouse review just appeared in the boat ride. That's great. In this one, we have this high expectation of this is like a signature attraction taking over an entire pavilion at Epcot where there were so many animatronics with all those dinosaurs. And now it's just a light show inside with projections, which if you do it right, that's great. I love Guardians, so I think the content will be good. This 30-minute loop that they do, very similar to the Velocicoaster, where you get to walk through that queue and you hear, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard talking back and forth. That's kind of neat. So it'll be neat to see those characters here, but at the same time, it would be amazing to see a Groot and audio animatronic or another Rocket.
It's also surprising too because they didn't have to create anything new. Since we don't have Mission Breakout in California, they could have taken Rocket from Mission Breakout, done the same movements, put him on a ledge somewhere, literally just changed his audio, and done a very similar type, build it into the show of him running across the top for some reason. Give us something. Like, we went from, give us all these animatronics, this is going to be the biggest ride opening, it was the largest concrete pour in North America, all this fanfare, and you're like, all right, get ready for your roller coaster with screens, and we're like, ugh. So now, we just be happy with a rocket running across the top of the ceiling. But, yeah, they should have given us something.
Largest concrete pour. Now I don't care about the animatronics. You've sold me.
I mean, this is where Disney's getting rid of the headlines now.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard anywhere from 11 to 14 animatronics were supposed to be in this attraction. And for them to just kind of flip it at the last minute the same way they did with Toy Story. We had all this endless, these show scenes throughout Slinky Dog, and then they just kind of took them away and backed them down. So kind of sad to think about. So we'll move on to happier things. It looks like the Connections Café, which David has been waiting all his life to go to, is finally opening up. They've put out more signs. They've got this shot inside where you can see the mural and also the Florida Project flooring, because Zach Ridley and flooring. They released the menus. And I assume you guys have looked at these menus, and I'm going to start with you on this one, Stephanie. Are you excited about this food at all? Or, is there anything you went, oh my gosh, thank goodness, this is coming?
No, but then again, I'm pregnant and I'm excited about all food. So yes, I'm going to try it. I think that even though its name is Connections, I doubt that the Wi-Fi will be any better in that building. So I like that they had the nod to, what Walt's original vision was, and the original map on the flooring, back to the flooring. Zach Ridley, he's always, wanting to look at the floor for some reason. But yeah, the food I'm not super enthralled with, although what it's replacing with, the electric umbrella, wasn't that great anyway, so anything is better than that, maybe.
How dare you say the electric umbrella wasn't that great? Oh my gosh, David, talk some sense into her.
I do think that there is a case to be made that Epcot needs a restaurant that just serves I'm going to use the word plain American food. Because even the American Pavilion doesn't really have, just normal burgers and chicken strips and things like that. So I think they need a restaurant that does that. I was surprised that with their menu, they actually went a little bit more adventurous than I thought they would with this location. And if you look at some of the milkshakes, I'm actually excited to try the milkshakes. But I would tell people, if you're excited about this menu, try it quickly, because I have a feeling it's going to be pulled back a bit after it's been open for a couple months.
That is not incorrect. Peter?
Yeah, I was about to say the same exact thing, that to both points, is that there isn't this isn't a place that I think anyone's excited about, unless you're a parent with a large family where you just have picky eaters, or just give me 17 chicken fingers. You needed just a quick place. And again, David made a great point. You don't have to be an adventurous eater, but a lot of the things around the World Showcase and in that park are specialized, we'll say. So just to have some, quick munchy, food to munch on. And I don't think anyone's excited. I think it's cool to see how they transformed it. That's exciting as a Disney fan. It's cool that they did a little nod to Walt on the floor. That was kind of neat. But yeah, this is going to be your cafeteria-esque style food. I'm picturing elevated, all-star sports, but the cafeteria there is going to be that food elevated. And I think David hit the nail on the head that throw a lot out there, see what sells through, see what's really pushing those numbers, and what's cost-effective. And then you'll probably see this pulled back a little bit and played with and tinkered with.
Yeah. So in the chat, I'm seeing both sides, like, electric umbrella, how dare you? It's blasphemy. And then I've heard Dawn go, I'm totally with Stephanie on this one. So you know what? I loved the vibe in the electric umbrella. I liked that it had the second floor to it, but I think the food was very hit or miss whenever, but a lot of our counter service places are like that though, right? So, we'll see.
Are they going to bring back Push? That's all I want to know. Are they going to bring back Push Connections Cafe?
No. Never. There's some bad news about Push.
Come
We
on,
can talk
Zach
about it.
Ridley, show me the floor next to friggin' Push.
We could talk about Push next time, but it's not good news, my friend. It's not good news. So the other thing that they've been working on forever, and Pete, I remember on Old ParksCenter, you and I talked about this, was that they made the entire Epcot area a construction zone / war zone at the same time. And I think that there's no place that shows that better than when you hop on the monorail and you look down at Moana's Journey of Dirt. It's so, wow. It's just, there's so much going on. And I'm very hopeful for this attraction. I don't know much about it. I don't think we really do know much about it. It's a Journey of Water. Well, that's pretty vague. And then on top of that, there are a lot of people busy making stuff. That's great. But when you go down to like some of the stuff we saw in the beginning, it was very vague. It was, the grandmother going, Journey of Water. And then you see this, these pictures. I don't know what this is going to be. Walk through attraction with water. I hope it's amazing. I really hope it is. But, these walls have been up for a long time, and you're shaking your head already, buddy. You don't think it's going to be amazing?
I want, me. I'm an optimist, but I'm just afraid. The thing is, with walkthrough attractions, right? You have other areas like this, or play places where it's kind of keep people occupied for a certain amount of time. And this is going to be right down that main spine, right off to the right-hand side. So when you walk into the park and you're heading towards the World Showcase, it's got to be flashy enough for you to go in and take your time in going through. But again, it's an IP, so yeah, it'll pull people in. Journey of Water sounds exciting, but let's look at it over at the Animal Kingdom with the Maharaja Jungle Trek or something like that, or Gorilla Falls. I would say most people don't even know those exist or kind of go through them, and these are beautiful walkthrough attractions with real animals where you're kind of being right up close to the action. You have tons of cast members telling you all these amazing facts. This, I think, will be that. I'm hoping the IP, the location, and the flashiness of the water pulls people in. But I think it's just going to be a people eater. I don't think we're going to see anything spectacular. And it really can't be. You don't want people to sit there and park. You want this to be continually moving people through. If you have all these magnificent, beautiful show scenes, people will stand there, and you'll need a large pathway. Otherwise, you're going to have this bottleneck. So I think this is going to be kind of like a look to the left, look to the right, slowly walk through kind of water attraction, just to kind of push people away from other attractions in the park.
Did you ever go into the post-show for a day in the park with Barney at Universal? That was kind of a Journey of Water. I don't know, David.
I've never done it, but man, it sounds like I missed out.
Well, I don't. I think it's closed now, but man, it was quite a journey. David,
I was not coming on expecting to talk about Barney. I'm sorry. I think my reaction to this continues to be exactly what you said at the outset, Rob. I don't know what this is, and I don't.
It's a Journey of Water, David. A journey.
Interactive water elements.
Since the beginning of time.
Yeah, and Pete's exactly right. Walk-through exhibits or walk-through attractions really don't hold a lot of interest for guests all that often. People will walk through. What this reminds me of is a lot as you're going through Animal Kingdom. You get past the turnstiles and you're walking through that section to go towards the Tree of Life, right? So yeah, it's nice to walk through, but it's not some place that you're going to stop. It's not some place that's going to bring people into the park. And quite frankly, I think Moana deserves better than this. And I think that area of the park deserves something better than this as well. But we'll keep an open mind until we see it.
I think you nailed it again, to overuse that expression tonight. It may be the iconic of the evening, but the fact that Moana does deserve more, and if a little kid is so excited because they want to go to Epcot because there's a Moana attraction there, and they go through, and all the concept art I've seen doesn't really show Moana. I see the logo and I see the water, but I don't know. I mean, will we actually get? I'm assuming there'll be a meet and greet embedded in there somewhere where they can actually meet Moana, which nothing says Epcot like Moana, I guess. I don't know.
But if that's the
really
case,
know.
Think about how busy that meet and greet's going to be. Even when you go meet Mickey and Minnie or these other costume or these characters in the park, most of the time you're in a staging area and then you go into a door or another door or another door. This doesn't, in concept art at least, doesn't look like there's going to be some sort of structure at the end of this Journey of Water. So you're going to need some serious crowd control if you have just Moana standing outside, like kind of like Donald in Mexico. He gets a line, and that's not even like a super popular character like Moana with her own attraction.
Well, Care Bear in chat said, my guess is Moana is going to be a glorified splash pad, which, I mean, Dot's Puddle Park in Disney's California Adventure was very much like that. But I feel like this looks more immersive. It looks more like the original vision that we were told would be at Epcot when there was going to be the festival center and all that kind of stuff. So maybe it's not really as much of an attraction.
This was a low budget thing, so they don't have to worry about their budget. And also, this was the best job for a Disney construction worker. You closed off the whole area. You got tons of room. You don't have to worry about like putting things back at the end of the day, especially when you're dealing with plumbing and sidewalk and pouring concrete. You just, we just got to build some waterfalls. Okay, and yeah, we'll build some reserves to hold the water. This is a dream job for a Disney construction worker. You got no one around. You can just continue on. And again, you're not worried about like people's lives. It's a walkthrough attraction. This is a dream.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Are you secretly on this project, Pete?
And let me say, you are going to love it.
Is that why it's late? Just kidding.
Oh, hey, it's all good. We're all
Pete is
friends
offended.
here. It's fine. All right, let's move on from this journey and take another journey. There's more stuff for the 50th, which I know it feels like, okay, on one hand, the airport's already like this event's done. Let's get this like decorations out of here. And on the other hand, we're still seeing new merchandise coming to the parks. So one of the things that was out there is this new the America on Parade leggings, which I think Pete will look fantastic in when he finally grabs these.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you will. We've got this 50th anniversary collection Mickey Mouse T-shirt. That's kind of cool. It almost looks like it's inside out, but it's fine. We've got these new Coke bottles, and I have this one. Has a special place in my heart because I love the collector Coke bottles. There was a team that it can no longer be called this, but now they're the Washington Commanders, and they used to win Super Bowls. It was a thing they did. Look it up. It was a long time ago, but when they did, there would be commemorative Coke bottles for that. When the Orioles won the World Series, there was a commemorative Coke bottle. When Disney had, I think it was the 100 Years of Magic, maybe there was a commemorative Coke bottle. I'm a sucker for these. I really am. Put Arabesh on a Coke bottle, and I'm going to need one. I think I may be the only one on this panel that has that problem. David, you're nodding slightly. I think you're agreeing that I have a problem and not that you share it.
Yes, and no, I agree with you that these are great. I love the commemorative Coke bottles. I think it's great that they're doing these. They don't cost more than a regular Coke bottle in the parks. I mean, give it park prices though. But the fact that they're doing this, I am shocked that they're doing it now. This should have been something that came at the very beginning. But I am happy they are starting to release more things like this. And I think as they work through the various anniversaries with the Vault collection, I think that was an awesome idea. And I really like that they're doing that part of it as well.
Yeah, there are some other collections that are coming. The Iridescent Shimmer, the Vault Orange Bird, and the Balloon collection. So we got some looks at some of this stuff too, which again, I'm glad that I am not a Loungefly target because I would be in worse shape than I already am. But a lot of this stuff looks really, really kind of over the top. I'm not sure I would say it looks awesome. Stephanie, what do you think about some of this?
Any love to the orange bird, I'm there. I'm down for it. So, but yeah, I think that the balloon one, they could have done more subtly, more subtle tones. Maybe they wanted to throw in some neon for neon lovers. I guess that's coming back. It's not really my style so much, but
Are you saying this is not
I'm glad
subtle?
that they, like, I'm glad that they do have options. I will say that, right? So yeah, there's something for everybody.
Yeah. Pete, I assume you have one of everything in the collection?
Yeah, I wish. No, my thing is magic bands. I think everybody knows that. That's one of about 4 behind me. That's all I do. I have an addictive personality. I'm curious, and I'm sure some of this merchandise was supposed to be staged throughout the anniversary, but I wonder if things like the Coke bottles and maybe some of the things we think wasn't supposed to happen. I mean, I think it happened with the Mickey Mouse collection, but is supply chain issues. And it's nice that Disney has this 18-month celebration window because they can just say, oh, we're rolling it out now, but I wonder, like, were the Coke bottles supposed to be here in October, or is that a supply chain thing? were some of these merchandise lines supposed to be this staggered or this spaced out? As you can see, like London got that Mickey Mouse collection first before we got it here at Walt Disney World. So I'm just curious. I mean, I think again Disney got a little lucky, and I'm not saying by any means like in a good way, because COVID's not good, obviously, but where they had this 18-month window. So now the supply chain, if it's messing with their large orders, to let's be honest, they get a lot of their stuff from the other side of the world, can be kind of staggered throughout this anniversary.
Pete, is this your squad or is this the new MMC? I can't really tell.
Oh, that is my squad right there.
I figured.
I'm a little sad they cut me out. I'm actually just off to the right. They cut me out. Dang.
That looks like the group of people that would call you Mr. Carney, though. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been practicing this pose forever too. Like
again, you nailed it. So let me go backwards a little bit and talk a little bit about the treats, because there's nothing I like more than a gluttonous, oversized bucket of ice cream. And there she is right there, baby. Yeah, right? I mean, this doesn't come, unfortunately, with a shovel, which I think would be, I don't know, appropriate to come with a shovel. But this is a new thing at Typhoon Lagoon. You know, again, I don't know if the supply chain issue here would be the bucket or if this is them spreading it out. So this is definitely a thing. And then
who's getting this much ice cream when you're in a bathing suit at a theme park? Sweet sassy Molassie.
That's usually the time when you're like
to release this.
That's usually the time when you're like, maybe I should rethink my diet. And then instead they're like, have this very heavy thing of ice cream.
Instead of an ice cream cup or maybe a cone, would you like a bucket? So you have to eat all of this ice cream while you're sucking it in for the next 6 hours? Oh, yeah.
Well, the ice cream pail's been a long-standing tradition at Typhoon Lagoon. So,
how many?
But they did used to come with. We've gotten like that like 4 times.
Okay.
And if you're a person willing to share ice cream with kids, it's great. If you're not, do not get it. And I tend to be in the latter myself. I would let the kids order it, and I would not touch that thing. But it used to come with a shovel. It did come with a sand shovel.
Yeah,
how could they cut out the shovel part of it?
I don't know, because again, that makes it sort of like you eat the ice cream and then you wash it out in the bathroom, and now you've got this really cool, thing to use at the beach. That's kind of awesome. But the other thing that you were talking about, like cones of ice cream, is the Seven Dwarfs cones, which are rolling out one at a time. This is the Sneezy cone, which is root beer flavored. I think the idea is that they rotate through this one, and you have to see cashier for today's offering. But the Sneezy chocolate bark root beer soft serve cone with the chocolate belt buckle and chocolate face. I freaking love root beer. I don't know, Pete, have you tried this, or is that not a thing you do?
Yeah, I try to. I think everyone out there is aware that I have plenty of vices without sweets. I try to avoid the ice cream and the sweets. But I honestly, I love this Seven Dwarf cone collection. I think it's one of my favorite little treat things they've done. Some of these things they are literally just making things up so all the vloggers, bloggers, and news sites will buy them but this I think is the coolest, most creative. I love the Seven Dwarfs, and I love that they have their own little ice cream flavor that rotates through, and you don't know which one it'll be when you're there, so it's a surprise, especially if you're visiting from out of town. I think it's really cute with the ice cream cones. And I'm sad about the shovels, and I wonder if the shovels are them being cheap, or because I wonder how many shovels washed up at Typhoon Lagoon at the end of every day when they used
that's
to
very
the
possible.
Shovels. So again, it could go either way or a little bit of both. But anyway, yeah, love the Seven Dwarfs, love that. That's all I have to say.
But Pete, you know what? That's a good point. Is like a lot of this stuff, it feels like any Disney treat is all about the photo. It's about whether it's for your Instagram or for your blog, it's all about the photo and getting a good shot. Camera eats first, folks. Camera eats first. Take pictures of it. I get flamed all the time for taking pictures of my food. It's like, just eat it. Just eat it. But I think that's the thing behind most of the food that we see, especially for the 50th anniversary, especially that huge Montezuma's Revenge type thing that they sell in Mexico, the huge pyramid. But I do think it's about the photo. But Pete, just a word of advice. I think you're allowed to buy it, take a picture of it, and throw it in the trash can, is what I've heard. So
No. There are hungry people who want to eat that around the world, and I will not do them the disservice of throwing it away.
No, I agree with you 100%. Stephanie, before we move on from this, any thoughts about it?
Well, I think any more treats that they can do, the better. We had the Cheers to 50 Years Sunday at the Plaza the last time we went, and we that thing fed 11 people. So, yeah, I think it was anything that they can do. I think it's a good addition to the 50th celebration.
Yep, yep, agree. And again, you can find the reviews for most of this stuff on our website, wdwnt.com. Our people have gone and actually eaten it. And, I've been in a situation where I've been adjacent to a review before, and they're like, we have to finish this. You eat this. And so I've tried some stuff that way. Um, I want to move on though to something that is near and dear to my heart. Star Wars. I love Hyperspace Mountain, and it is returning to Disneyland. Honestly, and I'm sure there's some people in the chat that would come at me. I wish it would be Hyperspace Mountain all the time. This was one of the coolest things that I had ever done. I rode it for the first time during Season of the Force when they did that at Disneyland. And I love Space Mountain. Space Mountain's great. And their Space Mountain is a little bit different because it's a side by side rather than, the awkward way you have to get into this with grown-ups that you didn't think you would know that well.
Like
But
going vertically instead of side by side is so much harder. You're still getting into a vehicle.
it's fine. We're fine. But when you look at like Hyperspace Mountain, I don't know if anybody on here has ever done Hyperspace Mountain. David, you have done it.
I
Don't you
have.
don't you think it's an amazingly good overlay slash upgrade?
I loved it. I'm not even that big of a Star Wars fan, and I loved it. I think that it brings a new dimension to Space Mountain. I think, particularly if you're talking about the Disneyland one, which is not
Yep.
the original Space Mountain. So they can update that all they want for what I care. And think it's a great ride system. I think the overlay works well. I'm all for it. I'm with you, Rob. I would keep this all the time.
Yep. Good, Stephanie.
I agree. I too have ridden it. I do think it's the best version of Space Mountain. And it makes so much sense to be at Disneyland where you have Star Tours right across from it. And the Star Wars is so much closer as compared to the Magic Kingdom. But yeah, I completely agree. I think that they should keep that around.
Pete, have you ridden it?
I have not done Hyperspace Mountain, but I've done both Space Mountains on both coasts. Um, I will say this. I kind of enjoy, and I'm not saying I don't like anything all the time. Maybe it's because it's just me and someone who's now local to a theme park, but I kind of like the reasons to go to theme parks at different times of the year. Like, if you want to go to the Haunted Mansion when it's, Nightmare Before Christmas, that's like a 2 month run. So if they told you the times of the year, like, hey, we're going to celebrate Star Wars for the whole month of May the 4th. Like, all during May, it'll be Hyperspace Mountain. At least you know in advance. Or all throughout the holidays, it'll be this. Kind of like how they can turn on Soaring Around California and Soaring Around the World. I like a little mixing it up, a little shaking it up. So even if it is that much better, which I know it's better, a lot of people say it's better, but I still like the flexibility to go back and forth, and I like when Disney mixes things up a little bit.
Yeah, I guess I'm just jealous because I don't live in California, so whenever I go, I want it to be there. So if you can just arrange that, then they can turn it back to Ghost Galaxy or anything else when they're done. Let's move on to another Disneyland thing, which I thought was interesting, is that Ken Potrock says that Disneyland is only halfway through their phased reopening. I find this fascinating that they're only halfway through. I know that there's more entertainment to come, but one of the things he mentions is about the cast members that they used to have. I think it was 32,000, and then they rehired 18,000 of the old employees and hired 10,000 new employees. So, there's been a lot of turnover in there. So I guess there's a lot of growing still to do. I really love the fact that Disneyland seems to pay more attention to some of the little things. I think the Magic Key perks are better than the annual pass holder perks that are in Florida. I think that there's a lot that they consider to be classic and cherished, and they do a good job of keeping those up. But there's a lot that's new and unique, and I think their hard ticketed events are amazing. But Stephanie, from what you've seen, does it look like they're only halfway through? Like, I can't imagine what other than the entertainment coming back needs to still happen here.
Well, I haven't been to Disneyland since they reopened, since COVID and everything occurred. But I can tell you from my experience at Disney World, it definitely feels that way. So it probably feels that way on both coasts, where it comes down to if you're just calling and you're on the phone for 2 hours because you can't get a cast member on the phone, or you're waiting 7 hours for a popcorn bucket, where they should have more tables out and more merchandise associates there selling. So I don't know. They definitely have a problem with hiring, like Pete said earlier, and that's probably why. But yeah, they need to incentivize people to come back.
Yeah, David?
Yeah, it was an interesting statement because I think if you take it at just its initial value, your mind goes to, all right, what else do they still have to reopen? What else do they still have to, put in place? But I think what Ken was really trying to say was that, the park is completely open, other than a few things like entertainment, like you mentioned, Rob. But the new cast members, they hired about 10,000 new people, and the training and the level of expertise and the level of comfort with those jobs that those 10,000 people have isn't there yet to his satisfaction, as well as their operational processes around Magic Key and Lightning Lane and Genie Plus are not where he would want it to be. So I think that's what he means when he says they're only halfway there is, yeah, they've gotten the majority of the attractions open, but really now it's got to get operationalized and to a level of staff comfort or cast member comfort that they could provide the level of service that Disneyland is known for. And Disneyland, much more than Disney World, had long-term cast members who could provide a great experience, and they're not quite there yet.
That makes a lot of sense. One of the things that it was an article that I didn't put on the show tonight, but something that I still strongly disapprove of park reservations. I think when you pay for a ticket, whether it's a ticket or an annual pass, you should be allowed to go when you want, where you want. That's just something that you should do. It's something that Universal never did, like we talked about Universal earlier. So park passes in general, park reservations are just, to me, the worst. And I think they seem to cause more problems for the guests than they help. And so, I mean, that's been a huge problem for me. But one of the stories was about how cast members, at least in Disney World, have not been able to get in the parks because there are no open dates for them. And they're like, hey, here's a great perk of being here is you get to come in anytime you want, except not really anytime you want. And so they already had blockout dates, but now all of these other dates are taken because cast members only have certain days that they, there's a certain amount of park passes that are available. And so to me, that's one of the things where, like, you need to treat your people better, and then they'll treat your employees better, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, I feel like that's a problem. But before we wrap up this topic, I want to go to Pete about the Disneyland thing or cast members. Your thoughts? You're muted. He's muted. Unless you guys can hear him. Can you guys hear him?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm muted. Man, that was a really eloquent point I just made.
Take two.
What I was saying was, you can actually have all my time for Moon Knight. I have nothing to add there. But what I was going to say is, when Ken was speaking and any other Disney executive, my first thought is there any kind of talk where he's talking to investors and not so much the fans? Where if you're an investor and you're like, all right, well, Disney's fully open and this is what they're going to make. But then all of a sudden you hear an executive say, hey, we're only halfway open. Like, as an investor who may not know that so much about Disney, be like, wow, does that mean that, like, revenue is going to double, or you can handle double the amount of people, or we're making double the returns? So I'm not sure if that's something. I think it's a good point with just cast members getting them up to speed. I think we can all agree Walt Disney World is like the pinnacle. That's kind of what like Walt wanted. It's big, it's spacious. We have a lot of stuff here. But Disneyland really is. People go there for the traditions and for those, walking in Walt's footsteps. I'll never forget the first time I went. I did the Walking in Walt Footsteps tour, and my tour guide was someone who was working there and interacted with Walt Disney. He would come by, say good morning to her, and talk to her, and she would share all these stories. And that's what made Disneyland so magical for me, and I'm sure so many others. The other thing, too, I'm curious about is, I think, one, California had harder restrictions than Florida, so you could have some stuff there. And also, Disneyland is a much tighter, very close together or close in proximity layout compared to the vast amount of room we have here at Walt Disney World. So I'm wondering if maybe ride capacities aren't up as much. Again, I haven't been to Disneyland since it's reopened, but these are just things that are kind of bumping around the back of my head. And then we were just talking about something else, and I totally forgot what I wanted to talk about, but
cast members
it's fine.
Park passes, park reservations.
Oh yeah, passes. Totally agree on cast member passes. Now that I'm living here for almost 3 years in August, I know a lot more cast members, and it's a real shame because like they have just been like gutted over and over and over again, and then when they finally get a day off, they can't go to the parks. And I'm with you, Rob. I hate park reservations today. I had 3 different sets of friends and family and people I knew, all at Epcot. And it's rare that everyone who's in town is at the same park. So yesterday I went to go make a park pass, and I'm the top tier annual pass holder, and I couldn't even get a park reservation to Epcot. I couldn't get a park reservation to any park just to go there, walk through the gate, turn around, go back, and do a 2 o'clock park hopper. Every single park was shut down on Friday and Saturday for Sunday. And I know it's a race weekend. It's a springtime surprise race weekend. But again, it's someone who's paying the top tier and all these big bucks. And I finally have all these friends and family in town. I can't even go to the park and hang out with them. So it's just a little upsetting from an AP perspective. And for the CMs, I feel bad for the CMs constantly. Yeah. So I'm with you with these park reservations. Either have them for the mornings, but then maybe at 2 o'clock, all park reservations are open. Something like that, where they could at least monitor the crowds for the morning, that if you get in there, you get early. We can guarantee we have enough capacity for you right now, but then after, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, everyone can go anywhere they want. I don't know, just an idea.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, especially because seemingly after 1 or 2 o'clock when the park hopping opens, they're not really tracking you anymore because they don't really know where you've decided to go. So once that's
unless you scan in, like they can see if you went from like the Magic Kingdom to Epcot or something like that. But if you went back to a resort or you're resort hopping, or if you went home to take a nap, come back. So I mean, it's all tracking, and I think to be honest, I get the reservations if it's a more enjoyable experience. But the crowds to me are just as kind of crowded as before they had park reservations. So it's not like I'm seeing like, wow, look how much, there's no wait for anything. This is a dream. Like, that's not the case at all.
Yeah. Agree. So we'll fly through the Moon Knight thing. This is really just for me because I'm a dork. So, but basically Moon Knight has appeared at the Avengers campus in DCA, which is pretty exciting to me that, again, they still have the ability to move quickly on something like this, right? So that there's a new show that hits Disney Plus, they can put this or a movie in the theater, and they can put this character in the park the next day, which is one of those things that you can't really, pivot on anything else. You can't throw a show together, Dick Tracy's Crime Stoppers or whatever. Like, you can't throw this stuff in and then and hope that it does well. This is something that's cheap for them to do, but it's smart that they do this, I feel like. So it's really neat to see him in there. And then at the same time, they've put him up at the top. So as the show right now is being very mysterious about who is Moon Knight, what is Moon Knight, they've got the same thing where he's not interacting with other characters. He's just, standing at the top and being like, mysterious.
Moon Knight-ish.
Moon Knight-ish, yes, exactly. So anyway, I just think that's a cool thing. We don't really need to talk about that. We can move on to talk about something that, Pete, I know you do want to talk about, so we'll make you last on this one again. Is the Food and Wine Festival. They've announced this, and David, to your point, there's a festival all the time now, pretty much at Epcot. The Flower and Garden now lasts basically until this thing starts. But are you excited about this? Is this a good festival for you? I know when Festival of the Arts came out, a lot of us said that's our favorite, but this one feels like this is the OG.
Yeah, it is absolutely the OG. I'm excited for it. I have no issue with it starting earlier than in the past. I think if people want to experience it and people are traveling to Walt Disney World specifically for this festival, absolutely. Start it as early as you can. There's no reason not to. It's not like it's taking something away. It's not blocking anything else out. So, yeah, but I still think Festival of the Arts is my favorite, but this is a good second one. I mean, absolutely, I would suggest people doing it. Just don't do it on the weekend.
Yeah, good point. And I'm going to jump straight to Pete because I think before when I was talking about your squad, I think this is your squad right here, isn't it? Like, isn't this your squad? Hanging out with the ladies, having a drink. You're muted too, by the way, buddy. I think he wasn't expecting us to come back then. You're still muted.
Dude, Rob, you're contagious. I swear, Rob is rubbing off on me.
Stop it. Stop it.
Listen, I'm excited. I know a lot of people would assume that Food and Wine is my favorite festival, and it's not. But I do enjoy the Food and Wine concert series the best. One of the coolest things moving down here was with Epcot, only about 10, 15 minutes away, was just to go after work and just like listen to a band, try a new food item you haven't tried yet, because there's so much food during Food and Wine. And granted, a lot of it gets repeated, it is the most by quantity, the most amount of different plates available, as well as beverages. And you can just grab a plate of food, grab a drink, and watch a band at night and go home. Now with reservations, I'm really afraid that might not be the case anymore. Like, or do I have to make it that far out in advance? Like, if Boys to Men gets announced for November, there goes 3 of my park reservations right out of the gate. Like, I'm going every day. So, happy it's back. I mean, my favorite festival, I have to agree. I love Festival of the Arts, and even Flower and Garden is just, I think of the park is at its, like, most beautiful. I wish they could just do, like, some of Flower and Garden year-round. And also in terms of them starting it early, I used to always come down for my birthday. It's August 29th. And I would always have to fly out, like, the day before Food and Wine started. It was always, like, right in September. So I would see the booths. I'd get all excited. And I always wonder, like, why not? Like, it's not like the crowds are that much busier in August and September now. It's just crowded year-round. There's always something. So, yeah, why not? They have the structures. They're sitting empty if they're not using them. They're missing out on the profits. They could, people come in just for the festivals. Why not extend them? Take 2 weeks off between every festival. I'm all for it. Who cares?
I mean, wouldn't it? This is cheaper, though, but I think it would have been cooler if they did one more festival right there in the middle. And maybe someday that'll happen, like a Summerfest.
But don't you think that the problem with that is, one, like, conceptually they'd have to spend a lot of money on what they would do, a different theme. How do you make it different from the other festivals? But then also I feel like it would be thrown together so haphazardly that it wouldn't, like, be the festival we all want it to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, when Festival of the Arts came by, we were like, oh, nervous. Like, what does this mean? There's no concert series. Okay, Broadway singers will hang out. But then, like, the way the plates are presented and you get to look at all this beautiful art. You're like, wow, this is an amazing festival. It's beautiful. So, I don't know. I'm with you. Like, I would love a new festival, but again, everything costs money. Where do we want Disney to spend that money?
Hold off Summerfest. Mini festival.
Yeah.
You're right. They kind of did that. Bring us home on this one, Stephanie.
At the water park.
I agree with Pete. I love the Eat to the Beat concert series. I think it was 2019. I got to see BB Mac in concert with a friend. So bring back BB Mac. You were there. No, but I think that if you could do the
I went to all of the
BB
Mac ones. That was great in 2019. Yeah, that's when I moved down.
Yeah. If you can do the dining package and you get the reserved seating, especially for like Boys to Men or one of the bigger name concerts, that's worth it doing it.
Yeah, and especially if it's Boys to Men, it's Pete Carney. That's the way.
Well, it's just a great point too. That's just, not to like beat a dead horse, but that if there really are, when you get that concert release calendar dates or whatever, we used to book when we lived in New York. Let's go up for that weekend or let's go for this week, and then. To be honest, you may as well, you're going to treat yourself to one nice dinner during the trip anyway. Why not do it during your Eat to the Beat band that you want to see? And you get those front 3-4 rows. Oh my gosh. That was wild.
Did I just replace Dave?
You did.
Oh,
It's fine.
Is there a glitch in the Matrix?
It's the multiverse. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll come back to talk about March Madness. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to Deep in the Plus. Each week, join host Rob Whiteside and a panel of Disney superfans as they take a different movie or TV show from the Disney Plus catalog, tell you its history, details, give their review, and let you know if it's worth your time. Current shows, classic movies, and everything in between. Watch Deep in the Plus live Tuesday nights at 9 Eastern for new episodes. Or catch Deep in the Plus anytime on YouTube at unplannedDowntime.com.
Welcome to Disney Entertainment News Today from WDW News Today. I'm Rob Whiteside from WDWNT.com, and here now are the top Disney entertainment stories.
For the latest in Disney entertainment news, watch Disney Entertainment News Today, hosted by Rob Whiteside. From movies and series news to stage shows, books, video games, and more. New episodes drop every Tuesday on Unplanned Downtime.
Welcome back to ParksCenter. I know what you're wondering. Rob, did you front load all those commercials for your shows only? Yes, I did. We're doing Deep in the Plus on Wednesday nights now, so that we can do Disney Entertainment News Today every Tuesday. So hopefully you'll join us for both of those on Unplanned Downtime, along with other great content over there, including the RPG, Ink and Paint, and Picky Eaters. A lot of content over there, so hopefully you will like and subscribe there. But if you have not already tonight, please like this video, subscribe to WDWNT for more great content, including that little web show that Tom Corliss does called News Tonight, where they do this March Madness every year, and we get to come on and talk about it. Sometimes we come on a little earlier than we were supposed to, Patrick.
No.
Poor Dave.
I saw Get Ready. I'm like, oh, that must mean go.
So Patrick has been with us for all the nights of talking about March Madness, and so we are very excited to be wrapping it up. This has been a weird year because, again, this topic that we had was the top 64 show scenes, and the show scenes, it was very weird. Some of them were pre-shows. Now you've made Pete feel weird, and he had to go get his jacket, I'm sure.
Yeah, Pete, absolutely.
Yeah, so but
that's how this started.
Right, exactly. So the show scenes, it could be a pre-show. It could be like it was bugs, like walking under your seat was a show scene. They were all over the place with show scenes, it seems like. So it was a little bit interesting to go, what are we really comparing here when we're talking about show scenes? Is it something that is quote-unquote iconic, or is it something that is really more along the lines of, is it essential? Is it something that has to be there for the story to make sense? So this week we went through the 16, 8, 4, and then 2. I'm going to start with you, Pete, on this one, because you actually did play-by-play in the studio for a lot of this, except for the last show you were...
Whoa, what do you mean?
Well, I was going to say during the last show you were very quiet for a lot of it. You just kind of sat still, and Tom made a lot of jokes at your expense, and you didn't, and like a true professional, you didn't flinch. You didn't flinch, and so God bless you for that,
as
man.
you can see on screen, he did gut me. And it's hard to speak about a diaphragm. And he took my entire heart as well, so it was tough. I made it through the first round, and then I just decided I would take a vow of silence. I can't wait to see your thoughts, because I can give you some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that we talk about during commercial, and what some of the, in my opinion, upsets were and people arguing behind the scenes. But I'll let you guys commentate on the brackets first. But let me just say, what did you guys think? I would love your opinions of our commentators this year, because I thought that was something I enjoyed this year.
It felt a little...
no joke.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I was going to say, no joke, by far and away, this was the best year for March Madness. I have been watching these for many years now, and the crawl on the bottom stole it, and the play-by-play with you guys stole it, the color commentary. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, great.
Well, I think really Pete just came on here for compliments. So Patrick, do you have some compliments for Pete as well?
I don't have any compliments for Pete. I do want to agree and say it was the best year. I think it was the best year we've ever done. I think the result is proper, and I'm really excited of all the added elements to it. It just really was well done all across the board. I like the kind of studio show feel that we got. I felt very professional, very well done.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say this was the most organized year we've had, just looking back. Like we've mentioned, I've been a part of March Madness for many years. Also, ParksCenter, when we first started ParksCenter, this show started as commentary on March Madness before it became a Disney news show, going back many, many years. When did we start this show? 2017? But, so, I mean, it's just fun, and I would agree with all of you. I think this year was the most put together, well-run, timing-wise. Like, we used to run for hours and hours. It had a nice script. It had a nice flow. I think we had some great panelists. I love that we had people who are willing to, like, kind of take Tom on. Even when Tom is right sometimes and Tom is wrong sometimes, you need different opinions in the studio, and people who aren't afraid to speak up. So I think we had a great panel. I loved working with Eric. I thought the commentators were great, too. And Eric was most of that scroll, so big shout-out to Eric. That scroll has me dying all the time in the studio.
I got to say, Piano Rob was a great addition. I thought he was a really great addition. Brought a fresh perspective that wasn't one of the very well-known perspective. I mean, WWNT, God, we've been around, 14 years? Something like that? 15 years? That's insanity. And so people know most of the staff that's been here a long time opinion, and getting Rob in there was great. I thought he added a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Stephanie, one of the things that I feel like March Madness is usually known for is big mistakes and huge fights. Do you feel like there was enough of that this year? Because I almost feel like it was a little too clean.
I don't know. Jill came in hot. You know, she missed the first night, and then the second night she came in. She was like, "Okay, no, we're not going to have this." You know, but I really enjoyed her point of view, and all of that. It was a great panel. I agree with Patrick. Piano Rob was wonderful, wonderful addition. I hope he comes back. So yeah, I think it was a fun back and
I
forth.
think he will.
The clock really prohibited a lot of the fighting, though.
But the clock is necessary where people are just getting to the point, because people would just go on forever and ever, or somebody would take up the entire time. So it was fun to have that clock and to kind of tease a little bit. I know, like, during week 2, I think we were, like, teasing some people who were eating most of the clock. So the clock, I thought, was another essential thing. We've talked about this and ways to fix it for many years. Patrick, can elaborate more on this, but we've said, like, how can we make this better? And a lot of the suggestions Patrick and others have come up with, I think we put into play this year.
Yeah, you know what, though? One of the things that I think, and Patrick, you talk on this, is that, the seating. Tom said the seating didn't matter because at the end there's going to be one winner. I disagree with that, but I want to get your thoughts on that one.
So I thought what he said had value to it, that at the end of the day you beat the team that's put in front of you, but there could be something to be said that teams are eliminated earlier that shouldn't have been because of the seeding. I've always been a fan of, back in the day when the NCAA tournament started, it really was East, West, North, South, and you played in closest to home the higher the seed were. I mean, honestly, sometimes I just want to see, like, hey, what would have come out of the Epcot bracket or the Magic Kingdom bracket to see really a real winner takes all kind of mentality. Would Figment have made it through if it fought Epcot attractions the whole way through? Probably. I think that Yeti probably would have been in the finals as well, getting out of Animal Kingdom. The seating, it's all him. And sometimes when stuff goes awry, and like Peter Pan being an 11 seed, it might have had an easier path if it was a higher seed. And sometimes if it's one person with the oversight, it's going to just have some oversight. I'm like, oh, crap, I forgot to put Pan in and put that in there.
Well,
Didn't we talk about this last year, though? And I'm sorry to cut you off, Rob, but we talked about this last year and a way to solve this. And now, granted, listen, Tom has a lot on his plate. I know Tom bashes me all the time, but I'll try to be the bigger man here. And Tom has a lot going on constantly. But we always know we're doing March Madness. I think by the end of December, early January, we should have an idea of what the brackets are going to be. And it could be something, we obviously need 64 of something. But why not do something where there might be more than that? Like, let's say there's 80 or 100 options. Put them out to a vote. I mean, we have a huge audience here at WNT of hundreds of thousands of people. And even if 1 or 2% actually took the time to vote and say, like, hey, or rank these attractions, or what's better, this or this, and we can actually come up with a huge, let's get rid of the stuff people don't care about, and let's actually see these the way the public thinks they should be seated. I think that'd be an interesting concept. And it gets hype going for March Madness, and we did this all throughout, say, February.
I was going to say, I feel like that with 4 different brackets and 4 different parks, I feel like it should have written itself in that case. That it could have been, each bracket would have been a park. Like, and then you would have had, when you hit the Final Four, you would have had the best of Animal Kingdom, the best of Magic Kingdom, the best
But
of...
the problem is that it really depends. This year it would have worked with show scenes, but that doesn't always work with what we're March Madnessing, if that makes any sense. Because there's some parks that are better at certain things than others.
No, I don't disagree, but I think in this case it would have made sense that, having them all
I think
together.
it was actually pretty well divided, too, when we looked at the show scenes. There was a good amount from each park well represented. They were just seated a little bit weird. So, yes, this year it would have worked. So I get your point. I'm just saying for the future, I don't think we should make it precedent that it has to be the parks.
Yeah.
Because depending on what it is,
No.
it doesn't always make sense.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I just think this year it kind of lined up that it should have been, which would have been...
I got next year.
Okay, go.
You ready?
Yep.
Top 64 festival booths.
Oh, my God.
No.
Yikes.
Here's the thing I like about this one and some of the
Italy's a
others
16.
is that you actually have reference, though, to what people are talking about when you are a casual Disney fan. When it was 64 attractions that no one's ever seen because they weren't built, that's tough to do because you're like, teach me about each of these individually. That's like going to somebody who doesn't know anything about basketball and saying, let me teach you all about all 64 teams in the in the league so that you know what you're about to see. And I think that it's great when it's something we all have an opinion about. Table service, counter service, and even pre-shows, show scenes, all that kind of stuff, because we all have that. But, I think that while I get that you're probably half serious, half funny, I think it definitely fits better when it's something that we all know about.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, let me go to Stephanie on this one. What do you think about the fact that there were no listener interactions this year, no viewer interactions? Is that a good thing or was that a bad thing?
I think it definitely moved things along faster this year than previous years, but it was kind of a bummer because you would get those telephone calls and it would say, oh, there was another point on the board for, cosmic rays or whatever, and everyone in the audience and in the studio would go, oh.
Yeah, you know what? Sorry, Stephanie, I'm going to have to go to Patrick on this one. Patrick, what do you think about that?
I agree. I think that just besides the sounder, that's the only thing that was missing. The fans messed it up because they had teams that they were rooting for that they got prizes for. No shade to them. They were trying to get prizes, core bucks, whatever prizes we were giving away. And it's better this way. We don't end up with cosmic rays. I think that's the one that really needs to be redone. I think the counter service restaurant needs to be redone because it was a disaster.
Okay. What else? What else do we want to talk about? Let's go to the bracket. Let's go ahead and cut to the bracket because that's what we want to give as a final. So here
while
we
you
got.
Pull up the bracket, I love interaction, but also besides them swaying the votes based on prizes, it did take a lot of time. Which again, like we are trying to make this thing. March Madness every week is like watching the Oscars every week. It's just too long. I mean, obviously without the violence. But, like, it's just we're trying to make it shorter and shorter. So, I don't know. I would love to hear people's opinion. Maybe, again, some kind of online voting system where there's a poll, but taking the phone calls and then having people have a stake in the game for something they don't even care about kind of ruined the tournament a little bit for me. Sorry about that. Let's go back to the bracket.
No, all good. So, I mean, one of the things that I always hear about is that people, especially with our panels, tend to vote nostalgia. Not necessarily the best show scene, but the one they're most nostalgic about. And I think the winning one kind of speaks to that a little bit. But let's go back through that. I don't disagree with you. I think timing-wise it went well. Even though, can I ask this question to this panel? And again, because I don't know if Tom will watch this show or not, but whatever. So the question is, though, don't you think with especially the first episode, there shouldn't have been 92 other bits in that particular News Tonight? Like, there's the monologue and the comments and all those other things. The show ran 3 hours. And maybe that's fine, but I mean, I feel like if that's what the March Madness show is, that's the content of that show. I could be wrong, Patrick, but what were your thoughts on that?
I thought it went a little bit long. I was actually watching the last episode today, and no offense to anybody who was involved. We're all very smart, and I'm very proud of all the work you do. But I was just like fast forwarding through to get to the conversations because it needed to be tight and trim. But it also is an entertainment show, so we want to keep the entertainment factor there. It's hard. So much has really changed, and we do entertainment, we do news. There's just a lot to kind of cover. So I see the benefits of having it. But for me, this is my marquee event for the year. I mean, we don't have the Tommies anymore. Look it up, kids. And this is what I look forward to for WWNT.
Yeah, no, I know you do, and I think we all do. I think a lot of us have talked about it. That's kind of one of the things that got us involved with it, because, again, everybody gets to give their opinion and their thoughts and share it with their friends and everything. So let's just talk about the Final 8 here. So the Burning Town versus the ballroom scene was a very close one. A lot of these races were close, but for that one, I feel like the right decision was made. I mean, we're talking about 2 classic attractions, right? So Stephanie, did you agree with that one? I mean, they were fighting hard for the Burning Town over and over and over again, and then this one it was like, but ballroom.
Yeah, no, I think that the right decision was made on this particular one. I wish that the previous matchup had not occurred the way that it did, because I think it put pirates against, it was like the jail scene against what was it? Something else from Mansion or something like that. So that one, Anubis, yeah. So I wish that Anubis had lasted a little bit longer, ballroom, and then the jail scene somehow could have stayed in. But again, that had to do with the seating, and that was just not going to happen. So ballroom won out. I would have taken it all the way personally, but yeah, that was the right call on that one.
Interesting. Patrick?
Yeah, I thought we got to the right place with that. I think ballroom it's immersive. One of the comments I think Piano Rob said was that it's a little too quick through it, but I think that's part of the appeal, is that it's rewritability. A lot of this brings rewritability. So I was surprised it dispatched so quickly in the Fantasmic 4, and I thought it would have been a little closer in the final, but I think ballroom should have been where it was.
Gotcha. Pete, I'm not sure that your in-studio counterpart got a chance to comment on this one. What did you think of the results of that one?
I'm happy overall. I mean, if I'm not doing like witty, just funny stuff, on a serious note, I'm happy Haunted Mansion won out here. And for me, both scenes are fantastic. But if I had to go through Pirates without the Burning Town scene, I would be sad, but it would still be a really awesome ride. And there's so many other amazing scenes. If I had to go through the Haunted Mansion without the ballroom scene, I don't know if the Haunted Mansion. I think to me that's like just one of the most beautiful, well put together. It shows the true magic of Imagineering all summed up in one room. There's so much happening, and it's also a scene. I mean, kind of like the Burning Town. You could look at it a million times, but there's just so much happening, and it's just so beautiful to think how long this has been running, and it's watching magic. It literally is like watching magic. Burning Town, you could figure out even as like a kid how it's done, but like you go through the ballroom scene and you're like, wow, this is incredible.
What's a Pepper's Ghost? I don't know.
I thought it's probably too hot for me. I prefer mild.
Yeah, no, for sure. So in this lower tier, the Burning Rome versus Renaissance went toe-to-toe, and again, Burning Rome was one they'd been fighting for all along, but all of a sudden, when you have to decide between two spaceship birth scenes, a lot of people went Renaissance. I know that Desi kind of pulled from Allison's book from the week before of this is not accurate historically, so I'm not voting for the Renaissance. But Patrick, you have thoughts? Mute. You're on mute.
Can't hear.
See, everybody complained about the mouse clicking. I haven't got the new mouse and keyboard in yet. So I thought that Burning Rome should have won because it's a much better scene. It tells you more. There's more information in it. Historical accuracy or not, it's a great scene. It has the smell. How many attraction things are tied to smell? And then the Renaissance to go over the Yeti. I could see Rome. I don't know if I see the Renaissance over the Yeti. It's really one of my least favorite scenes in Spaceship Earth. But like I said at the end of the last show, I really thought it was going to end up being Yeti and Figment at the end.
Yeah, Yeti was one that a lot of people fought for. Go ahead.
I would have picked the communication scene as you're going past the Renaissance, and you come into like Jesse Owens, people going to the movies to see about him, and seeing the moon landing. I would have picked all of that because there's so much to look at as compared to the Renaissance, which is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I would have still picked that over Rome and everything, but I wish that they had added that scene as well. Just put the whole spaceship Earth in there. Why not?
Sure. Well, I mean, you know what? To that point, I'm kind of shocked that World of Motion had no representation here because I like World of Motion.
Thank you.
And World of Motion, I feel like rather than having a couple from each of these, World of Motion should have been represented in there somewhere. Because I feel like the one where there's like, the train hold up, I think that's a good one. So, I don't know. Is Pete being super still?
No, I'm right here.
He's blinking.
I'm listening, taking it all in.
All right, well, give some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, Renaissance scene, I think, is when I think it has just something to do with like you're going up this little bit of an incline. The music hits you at the right time. It's like you hear the choir. It's just like you feel like God is speaking to you in that moment. So I feel like it holds. Even though the Burning Room is really cool and neat and kind of open, is one of those first scenes on the ride where you're like, this is really cool. I think the Renaissance scene, just because of the music and what you're going underneath. Again, it's that Disney rule: always look up, down, left, right. It holds, I think, a little bit more weight, and it's a beautiful scene. However, that being said, there is no way I think it should have beat a guy whose paintbrush is 3 inches from the ceiling, just kind of going back and forth with a mechanical wrist, should beat a 2.5-ton moving animatronic inside of a mountain, inside of a roller coaster, built together. It's on the History Channel. When this thing worked, again, we're talking the Yeti that worked. It was probably one of the most incredible things Imagineering has ever dreamt up and made happen. I mean, you're talking about a massive, thousands of pounds swinging down at you, perfectly synced up in time to when the roller coaster is going right underneath them. It was an incredible feat pulled off by them, and when it worked, it was terrifying. It linked up with the sound. It was an amazing feature, and it was running on time and off, and granted, it broke pretty early in its life. This wasn't something that consistently broke down over and over again like we see when rides open now prematurely, and there's a lot of downtime. This thing was rocking and rolling. It was a beautiful effect. I think the Yeti should have went much further.
Rob, are we getting the they put jet fuel in that girl shirt on Carousel of Products soon?
No, it was a jet. It was
Where's
a jet
my
engine.
Liquid Magic shirt?
It was a jet engine.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it
They put jet engine in that girl.
Yeah, in
Betty the
that guy,
Yeti. That's the first thing I really learned on this tournament. I had no idea she was Betty the Yeti.
Yeah.
Betty the
Well,
Yeti.
who did the research to find out that it was female? You got to.
I mean,
know.
I just
There's too many
assume Tom knows these things.
Yeah, no, true. I just mean in the first place to be able to have it be fact. But
Joe Rody made that call. That's
Joe
simple.
Rody.
You can tell it's clearly a female Yeti.
Sure.
Oh, God.
Let's look at the right-hand
She's
side
protecting her young.
of this matchup. And so, the Wizard of Oz versus the Stretching Room, 6-1. Honestly, it was kind of a surprise to me because, again, we talked about in a lot of cases they do, via nostalgia or the I word. And so when you go in, the Stretching Room is kind of a big deal. And then the Wizard of Oz, a lot of good points were made about the Wizard of Oz. So then the next one was the pre-show of the Muppet Vision versus the Fifth Dimension. I had thoughts on Fifth Dimension before, but Fifth Dimension won, and then these went back to back. Stephanie, what were your thoughts on this particular section of the bracket?
I know that people love the pre-show for Muppets and everything, but I personally love the ending of the attraction that got kicked out very early. I can't remember what bracket that was, but it got kicked out very early because a duck butt won over the Swedish chef and his cannon, I guess is what that was. But I just feel like a pre-show versus you're in an elevator and it's actually coming out instead of going up and down in a vertical shaft there. I thought that was definitely, it was a no-brainer. But yeah, people took it far for Muppets.
Yeah. Patrick, in this one, what do you think?
Man, I really wish Wizard of Oz went out a while ago. I get it, but at the same time, it is not authentically Disney. It is from an attraction that, sure, it was great, but it made way for something else. Even though, when you come down to it, Figment isn't the same as it was. It's still there in some vein. It hasn't been, completely torn out. I really thought Muppet Vision should have had it. I love the Fifth Dimension scene. That's a tough choice for me.
What somebody pointed out to me, because I think I said the Fifth Dimension, I didn't quite get it, is that when the very first time you do it and you don't know that this thing's going to move forward, and Desi made a joke about how she pranked her cousin or whatever on it, is that, that is impressive. No matter what's around you in that, the fact that this thing is moving forward and you expected it to just be an elevator, that is a game changer. So I guess from that standpoint, that is pretty good. I do love Tower of Terror, but I think that particular, as far as a show scene, I'm still surprised it went that far. Pete, what are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, like the Yeti, you were just talking about it. The Tower of Terror, when that elevator leaves the elevator shaft, again, was something that had never been done. I mean, they had worked with Otis Elevator. Talk about another modern marvel. This is another thing that's like literally on other TV channels that Disney doesn't even own at the time, like who wanted to do a series on this. They took a legitimate elevator and made it go forward and backward, not just up and down, and it kind of blows your mind in one sense right out of the gate. If there was nothing even in that room, you're like, are we moving forward? And that feels like you're in a new dimension. And then it's a fun show scene. There's things you could tell you're coming from different directions. I liked when the eyeball still had the picture of you in it, so you see yourself like looking there. It was crazy. Again, your hat's off to Imagineering here. When this ride was in its perfect form, and again, we've done it a million times, so we know what's going to happen, but imagine that first time. It's just an incredible scene. And it blows your mind in more than one way, not just visually. It's physically happening around you. So I would have had that go further, in my opinion. I mean, the other ones I'm fine with. They were close enough, and I'm okay with the way it went. But that was the one that really hurt me the most, because again, it was magic literally happening around you. So how do you not vote that higher up as a show scene?
Yeah, no, I agree. And, from what I said up the top about how I don't know how you identify each of these show scenes, I feel like that the Savannah reveal on the safari kind of got in on a technicality, because I do think it's very interesting to use that as a quote-unquote show scene. But then again, I get it. You come around the savannah, it opens up into the character, to see the animals, but you never really know what you're going to see, which is kind of what makes that moment exciting. Is you don't know what you're going to see. The bad news is sometimes you see nothing, and and then they have to kind of play it off as in, well, normally they'd be here, but let's move on.
This is an okapi tree. It's the actual tree of life.
Yeah.
Look at this. It's a tree with no leaves.
But that one beat a whole bunch of stuff, including flying over London, and I feel like, Pete, they said a lot of bad things about Peter Pan, and since it's your namesake, did you take offense?
So here's the thing. I love the Savannah reveal. I'm happy it went very far. However, again, it is not a show scene that always delivers. Even let's say 75% of the time it does, that still means 1 out of 4 guests are just left with kind of like, oh, it's a big field, like with some trees, like. And also, they have to refurbish that area a little bit. When you do those turns that zigzag down to the savannah, you used to not be able to see anything. Now you see some fencing and some backstage area where they need to fill that back in, which I don't know what happened to it. So, to me, again, what is the more magical thing? You're literally flying over a city, especially once they did that little mini refurb and refresh where the cars are moving and the clock is moving and things are happening below you, and it's not just a stagnant little village where, like, you're looking over, like, a Christmas village at your grandparents' house. You are flying over a moving city. It is just so cool. And, I mean, obviously very simple. You're looking as an adult, and you're like, all right, I know what's going on here. But from a child's eyes, even from an adult's eyes, it's still fun to just let your imagination go and to kind of look at the kids and the amazement on them and keep track of the cars and what's happening, and you're looking down. It's Peter Pan, I think, should have edged out that Savannah reveal. And also because Savannah reveals happen on a lot of safaris all around the world at zoos. So I don't think this is something very special, particularly to Disney.
Let me ask you this, Pete.
Even though it is magnificent and beautiful, I think Pan should have edged out Savannah.
So in the next level...
And then, whatever. People, the original imagination is beautiful. It's great. As long as you're doing the very best one. Yeah, obviously that's an easy victory, 6-1 imagination over Safari, because Safari should have been eliminated. If that was imagination versus Peter Pan, you have a lot of nostalgia versus nostalgia. I think it would have been a different fight.
That's what I was going to ask you, if you thought that it would have been better, more than a 6-1, if the Peter Pan show scene had gone through there.
Yeah, that would have been like a 5-2 or a 4-3, I think.
Yeah.
Although you have a lot of imagination people on that panel, for the record. I mean, like,
which goes back to
really
nostalgia.
Exactly.
Too. Yeah. Patrick, from this standpoint, we kind of called from the beginning this one was going to go through, knowing the panel like we do. I'm sure there were no surprises here, but any thoughts?
No surprises. I'm not a big proponent of Pan, so I was fine with that. I think an 11 was a good seed for it. I'm surprised that nobody threw a pity vote to Horizons, but I'm also glad that Horizons was eliminated because no more Horizons.
Ouch. Stephanie, any thoughts on this part of the bracket before we get to the finals?
I mean, the Savannah is not a zoo, right? But Peter Pan is iconic.
Oh, no.
Oh, she had it all ready to go. Yep, absolutely. Okay, good call. So when we got to the final four, the ballroom, the Renaissance scene, that kind of makes sense. Renaissance was seeded number 1. The ballroom is the I word. Wizard of Oz, people fought for that one all the way through. It was crazy how people fought all the way through for that, and I was kind of surprised that they did. I think there were some good points made about the fact that you couldn't always hear, like, the guide, and what they were saying, and sometimes if you were in the back car, it was the front car guide who was saying, be gone with you, and all that kind of stuff. It was pretty cool, but if you think about it, in that scene, when you first came in, as you're looking around in amazement, you look up, and it was all that movie, like ceiling as you would go through there, right? It was just, which is part of what puts you into that moment of, this is like you're driving into the movie, but it's like you're in the movie scene. You weren't, like, completely... immersed in that one. So it was interesting how hard people fought for it. But then at the very end, no one fought for it. It was 7-0 when it came to the final. It didn't even get that pity vote. So I mean, when it came to the finals, it was, again, not a surprise. The Journey into Imagination, the Flight into Imagination took it. The ballroom scene got 2 votes, and I think, again, probably pity votes. But I don't know. I mean, we kind of called this from the beginning, but I thought it was interesting the way it worked out. But they all said, well, at least we got it right this year. Patrick, did they get it right?
100%, they got it right. That scene was one of the greatest show scenes in the history of the Disney parks. It is a shame that it is the loading area now. It is a shame what's been done to that attraction. If Iger ever wanted to get, excuse me, not Iger, JPEG ever wanted to get some goodwill, you know, get Josh to bring that back to its glory. It's an amazing attraction, great animatronics. It's what Epcot was all about.
Well, you know what, and that occurred to me was how much of fan service would that be if they ever returned it to its original glory? But what they did, and again, if you watch the Back to the Future that we did on this network, it's on YouTube, and you go back and watch it, you have a whole new appreciation for it when you figure out how much effort they put into how are we going to make this happen, how many like rules of like, you know, modern day technology they broke to be able to put this thing together. And then at the same time, they talked about it on the panel, is that you really were introduced to these characters. You grew to love them in the 3 minutes that you were there. And oh my gosh, 3 minutes in a show scene when I think Seven Dwarfs Mine Train in total is like a 2-minute, 20-second attraction. So, Stephanie, I'm going to ask you, do you think that they got it right?
I'm going to play devil's advocate and say, no, I would have gone with ballroom. Sorry, guys. But as a child, I know I went on this ride because I have video. My mother videoed us on this ride. But what I don't really remember the ride itself per se. What I remember from my memory is the walk around character of Dreamfinder and Figment that had the puppet, I guess it was. That was more interactive and more memorable to me. So I wish that they would bring back those characters and he would walk around the park and talk to people and interact. And that was really cool.
Well, and again, this is a nostalgia play, right? Do we remember it, to your point, do we remember it as fondly because we want to or because of something we did? I mean, I worked this attraction. That's how ancient I am. I worked this attraction. One of the and I've said this before on the show, one of the positions on the attraction at the end of the night was for someone to sit and ride through at the end and make sure that things were working or that there was no trash or, you know, people hanging out.
You did the first maintenance report, huh?
Yeah, right. And honestly, it was just amazing to sit there and do that. But also at the same time, I was wearing a purple vest and a yellow mock turtleneck shirt. So it is what it is. But it was an amazing attraction. And when you go to the Back to the Future scene, you see how much work went into this one thing. I get it. But, you know, you're right, Stephanie. I mean, this is the one that stood the test of time, the ballroom. And it has a lot of stuff in it. And people remember it and get to still see it every day. So, Pete, same question to you. Did they get it right?
So you have, you know, one panelist say one thing, one panelist say the other. I would say I would have been okay with this going either way. I know that that Imagination in its perfect form, you know, the one version was the best and everyone loves it. Kind of like Stephanie, I vaguely remember it because I was younger. And I've watched video of it, but it's not the same. Obviously, experiencing it in person, I think, would create more of that nostalgia. I would say this. I think just to kind of like, and again, maybe because it hasn't been around as long, but if you look at a lot of Disney fans or people like who fan out more on something, I think you see more Haunted Mansion stuff than you do Imagination stuff. Especially, and if you're talking specific scenes, you see a lot of Haunted Mansion tattoos involve the ballroom scene. I just think that the fandom, again, that ballroom scene is magic happening in front of your eyes, and you have to do it a million times to see it. And I know it's not 3 minutes, and those 3 minutes are magic. I mean, you can kind of tell where I'm leaning, but either way, I'm happy these were the final two, because in this situation, I would have been okay with either side winning.
Yeah, there's a topic or somebody said in the chat, that they would like to start with the 16 and not do the boring 64.
Yeah, that's really good feedback.
Yeah, you're cutting out. I mean, when you do it that way, you are really kind of padding the 64, right? You're putting stuff in that you didn't.
Yeah, but the problem is too. Then who picks those 16? Right? We're already complaining about
still Tom
64.
Still
like
Tom.
Think about how many things would be left out if we only did 16. I think if we blew through the early rounds faster or extended it again, we put it only into 3 weeks. We started on the 17th and did it in 3 weeks. We have 4 this year. We had 5 Thursdays in March, but And we talked about, putting other segments in with March Madness really makes the show go long. If we spread it out a little bit more, or really blew through the first 2 rounds and then took more
That's
time
seeding. That's seeding right there. If the seeding's the way it should be, the first round shouldn't be competitive. It should be bing, 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 bing. There's not a St. Peter's every year. Shout out to Jersey.
Well, and not every.
I do get a lot of.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I do get a lot of laundry done during that first night. I'll watch it the next
Whoa,
day.
that first night was Liquid Magic night. You watch your tone. It was St. Patrick's Day this year.
Well, what I was going to say was that a lot of them feel like they need to tell you why they thought that. And, again, if you watch a sports show, a lot of them will give you like a quick blurb and say, that's why I'm going with the Vikings. That's why I'm going with the Celtics, like real quick like that. Maybe that might also help because I think we heard a lot of the same story all the way through. Also, sometimes they contradicted each other because one week they would say one thing good about an attraction and the next week they would use that against it to then not agree with it. So I think that maybe not as much commentary as they went through might help move it faster. Patrick.
I got to say, as gambling has become legal here in the state of Connecticut, I do that to myself all the time. Like one week I might have been like, yeah, I'm definitely going to put my money down on the Celtics. And then the week after that, I'm like, yeah, they seem to have cooled off. So it happens. It ebbs and it flows. And you got to adjust to the game that's in front of you.
Gotcha.
I also think it would be neat if we want to talk about like timing and how much time you have, and if you're really passionate and you're afraid something's going to be voted out, kind of like in chess, you should have, let's say, 5 minutes of talking time for the entire night. And you click your own clock, start, finish. So if you want to save your time for a Haunted Mansion show scene or something like that, on some rides you might just be like, Figment, boop, 1 second, you save your time. If there's something you're passionate about, you can save and bank that time and really take it, and that would move the things along, I think, a little bit faster as well.
Good point. Very good point. So let me get, we're running long, but thank you guys for being on the panel. I appreciate it. If you have not already, please give us a like. We hope you enjoyed the show. And, just give a like for Pete Carney. Come on. Thanks, Pete, for being on the show, being in the Sivako Square again.
Sivako, baby. I love ParksCenter.
It's magic. So thank you for being on here. We appreciate you. But let's just give final thoughts for the night. And we'll start with Stephanie and work our way back around to Patrick.
I'm super excited that the Mickey Hugs are coming back. I think that this is a great time to go if you have been putting off your trip, maybe towards the Christmas time when all the decor comes out, Halloween, everything like that would be wonderful to go. And I think it's a exciting time.
All right, Mr. Carney.
First of all, just so excited to be back. I obviously love ParksCenter. Was on the opening team, if you will. I was never a cast member, so this is my opening team of back in 2017 when we started with March Madness. So I love to see that ParksCenter is still going strong. So shout out to all of you who watch it. You're the reason that we keep it going. And shout out to Rob, who does a great job every week, and all the panelists. And I'm just happy to be back. In terms of Disney stuff, I think everything we talked about, I said it all. I say too much a lot. So if you're ever in the parks and you see me, come up, say hi, tell me all the reasons I was wrong tonight.
Patrick.
And unlike Pete, do not come up and say hello to me. I will still be maintaining 6 feet forever. Just a nice wave at a distance, and we can recognize each other. This tournament was a lot of fun. I really am sad that we didn't get the callers in, but I think it got better. And I'm not joking. I really want to see festival booths. I want specific years and what booth it was. Like, I want complete and utter madness.
Yikes. Okay.
Just want to watch the world burn, Rob.
Sounds like it. Just
if you want to watch the world burn, you have to do like the Wigs bracket is the top 64 WWNT staff.
Staff?
4 years back.
I would be. My poor ego could not handle that. Do I get a 1 seed? Am I like a 5? What am I?
I'm definitely like I'm the far back as you can get.
Well, I got to tell you, getting Pete on was an act of Congress because I had to go through his assistant, and then I was like, well, when can we get Mr. Carney? And they were like, are you good for 6 weeks from tomorrow? And I was like, we'll take what we can get. He's a busy man.
I appreciate, and you were, honestly, like, people get really turned off when I say that, but you were such a gentleman as always, because Rob is the man. When he reached out, I was like, I want to be on it. Let's do it ASAP. And I looked at my calendar. I'm like, I'm free in 7 weeks.
That is not a lie. That is true.
You waiting patiently, but it's so great to be back, and I'm so happy the show's still going. You guys do a great job every week. I really do listen and watch when I can. We got to get the podcast back, though. For some reason, it's not uploading anymore. We'll
that's
talk
all
about that
Patrick's.
another
That's Patrick. We got to figure that out. No, it's not Patrick. Okay, then it's my fault.
That's above my pay grade. My pay being 0, so it's well above it.
Awesome. Again, thank you guys so much for watching tonight. Thank you guys on the panel. We appreciate you. We are going to take a 2-week hiatus for spring break, and we will be back. Yeah, spring break, man. So nobody's going to. I mean, we already made people watch during Emmy night and Oscar night. So. And look what happened when we distracted everybody from Oscar night, right? So, we don't want that to happen again. So we will return on Sunday the 24th, and we will return with our much touted Disney Vacation Club episode. We will be talking about the DVC, and we'll have a panel on to talk about DVC, and we're going to fight to see who gets to be on. We may need to go 9 squares for that one because it's going to be a big one.
So that's the 24th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in.
That's when you need the mute buttons for people, though.
Yeah, exactly. To bleep people out. Yeah. So please mark your calendars. We'll be back on April 24th, and we will be talking about that. So we appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. If you are a WIGS member, we love our WIGS. Thank you guys so much for being WIGS members. That is our Patreon program. You can find out more about that at patreon.com/WDWNT. But our WIGS get a post show, and we will be doing that post show ASAP. Thank you guys so much. Have a great week. We appreciate you, and we will talk to you soon.
See you later. Bye.
ParksCenter.